Today, we're going to talk about the stages of a rebound relationship. And perhaps what I find most interesting about this video specifically is your ability to pinpoint which stage you or your ex is in. Because sometimes, what hurts most isn't the breakup itself. It's the silent unraveling that happened long before the goodbye. In this video, we're not just naming stages. We're tracing a journey, her journey, through distraction, denial, comparison, and quiet realizations she never spoke aloud. And more importantly, we're inviting you to step back and see the truth not just about where she is, but about where you are, whether you're hoping she'll come back or trying to understand why it still hurts when she's long gone. Each stage offers clarity, and somewhere in the middle of it all, there's a turning point, not for her, but for you. A moment where silence becomes power, where letting go stops feeling like loss and starts to feel like freedom. Everything you'll hear today comes from real people, real stories, men who thought it was over, only to discover that what felt like the end was the beginning of something stronger. So if you've ever asked yourself, does she miss me? Will she regret it? Is she really happy with someone else? You're exactly where you need to be. Like this video, subscribe to Stoic Station, and let's begin. Stage number 1. She checked out before she left. You probably assumed the end began when she walked out the door, when the words, "I can't do this anymore," finally landed. But in truth, that moment was only the confirmation, not the beginning. The real goodbye started in silence, in glances that lingered elsewhere, in moments where she seemed physically present, but emotionally unreachable. You noticed something shift. The way she stopped asking about your day, the way her phone became more interesting than your conversations. You thought maybe she was just tired, stressed, distracted. You didn't want to believe she was detaching, but she was. She was still lying next to you, but her mind was rehearsing a different life. She was entertaining fantasies of someone else, someone who hadn't disappointed her, someone who didn't carry history. Maybe it was a co-worker she kept mentioning too often. Maybe it was just an idea of freedom. Either way, she began emotionally exiting long before the relationship officially ended. And the most devastating part, you never even had a chance to respond, because by the time you sensed she was slipping, she had already made the emotional leap. That truth changes everything. It reframes every hug, every kiss, every "I love you" that felt distant toward the end. You realize she wasn't waiting for you to fix things. She was waiting for the right moment to leave without guilt. And once that moment came, it wasn't explosive. It was quiet, detached, final. It's not just the pain of being left. It's the pain of knowing you were being replaced silently, even as you tried to hold on, that you were still fighting for someone who had already left the battlefield. Stage number 2. She's celebrating your exit. In the days right after the breakup, it feels like she's glowing. She's not hiding, she's not grieving. She's smiling in photos, surrounded by friends, maybe already flirting with someone new. To the outside world, and maybe even to you, it looks like she won. She made the right call. She walked away clean, and she seems lighter, freer, almost relieved. That's because, in her mind, she believes she did what was necessary. She tells herself the past was too heavy, too complicated. And this new chapter is exciting, simple, unburdened. She's starting over with someone who doesn't know her scars, who doesn't hold her accountable for the damage she never addressed. But beneath the surface of that celebration isn't peace, it's avoidance. What looks like strength is often just her attempt to escape discomfort, because when someone leaves and immediately rushes toward the next thing, it's not always about joy. Sometimes it's about not wanting to sit in the silence of who they've become. Sometimes It's about not being ready to face the emptiness that follows a love they once believed in. She's not celebrating you being gone. She's trying not to feel the parts of herself that left long before you did. Stage number 3. The illusion starts to crack. It always begins with euphoria, the kind of high that convinces you nothing could possibly go wrong. She's in the honeymoon phase, convincing herself that leaving you was the beginning of something beautiful, with someone new, someone different. The conversations feel fresh, the attention is affirming. The silence that once felt heavy with you now feels spacious and free. For a while, it all works. She laughs a little louder, posts a little more confidently, and convinces herself she's finally on the right path. But the high doesn't last. It never does. The cracks don't show up in obvious ways at first. It's subtle, a delayed reply, a tone that feels just slightly off, a joke that doesn't land the way it used to. Then comes the first disagreement. Maybe it's small, maybe it's not. But it's the first moment where the fantasy has to confront something inconvenient, real life. Suddenly, the new guy doesn't feel so magical. He doesn't understand her silences. He doesn't read between the lines. He doesn't respond with the same grounded presence she once took for granted. And just like that, the illusion she worked so hard to create begins to tremble. This is where the past sneaks back in, because in those quiet spaces, after the fight, in the awkward stillness, she starts comparing. Not because she wants to, but because it's instinct. Her mind reaches for a frame of reference, and whether she wants to admit it or not, that frame is you. She told herself the problems were all yours, that if she left, the heaviness would go too. But now, she's beginning to see the truth. The weight didn't leave with you. It followed her. And the issues she thought she was escaping, the emotional disconnection, the dissatisfaction, the restlessness, didn't just belong to the relationship. They belonged to her, or at least the version of herself she brought into it. For the first time, she's forced to question the story she's been telling herself. Maybe it wasn't just you. Maybe the love she ran from wasn't as broken as she made it out to be. Maybe she projected her own confusion onto something that actually had depth. And now, as the excitement fades, she's left wondering whether she left something real behind, for something that just looked better on the surface. That realization doesn't hit all at once. It unfolds quietly, painfully, over time. But once it begins, it doesn't stop. The illusion continues to crack, and behind it, she starts to see the truth she's not ready to face. Different doesn't always mean better. And maybe the thing she thought she wanted isn't what her soul truly needed. Stage number 4. She argues to avoid the truth. When the cracks start to show, most people step back and reevaluate. But not her, not yet. Instead of accepting that the rebound isn't what she hoped for, she doubles down. She argues more. She criticizes more. Not just him, but herself, the world, anything that distracts her from the growing truth that the new relationship isn't fulfilling her in the way she imagined. She tries to recreate the early magic. She pretends things are still light, still exciting, but every attempt feels forced. Every gesture starts to echo emptiness. And the more she tries to convince herself it's working, the more drained she becomes. Because deep down, she already knows. She knows this man doesn't make her feel safer. He doesn't give her the grounding, the depth, the emotional presence she once had, but didn't recognize the value of. He's just new, and new doesn't mean right. She's not fighting for love. She's fighting to avoid admitting she was wrong. Stage number 5. You start winning the silent comparison. She doesn't begin by missing you. That would be too honest, too vulnerable, too soon. Instead, it begins as a quiet dissonance, a subtle sense that something isn't lining up in her new reality. The relationship she thought would elevate her now feels emotionally flat. The depth she expected is absent. And though she tells herself not to look back, her mind begins to drift toward what she once had, toward you. It's not nostalgia that drives it, it's contrast. The way you once read her energy without needing her to explain. The way your presence softened her sharp edges without asking her to shrink. The way safety wasn't something she asked for, it was something she felt without needing to understand why. That feeling wasn't loud, it wasn't flashy, it was steady, and now it's missing. She doesn't say these things aloud, she doesn't even fully admit them to herself, but in those quiet moments, after the laughter fades, when the room feels colder despite company, she starts comparing. Not just the men, the experience, the emotional quality, the way she felt with you versus how she feels now. And this is where something powerful happens. You start winning without effort, because you're no longer the same man she left behind. You're evolving, not to prove anything, not to impress her, but because the pain shaped you. The silence didn't just consume you, it refined you. You're more grounded now, calmer, clearer. Your energy feels different. It radiates from a place of self-respect. And she can feel that, even from a distance. That's the part most men underestimate. Growth speaks, not through words or posts or proof, through presence, through restraint, through the fact that you didn't chase her when she left. You didn't try to compete with the rebound. You let the silence do what words never could, shift the emotional gravity, so she starts noticing. Maybe she sees your photo and pauses longer than she wants to admit. Maybe she hears your name and something stirs. It's not about missing what was, it's about recognizing what she gave up. And slowly, the image of you begins to change in her mind. Not because you pushed for it, but because the version of you she walked away from has already outgrown her memory. Stage number 6. She reaches out from a place of regret. When she finally reaches out, it won't look how you imagined. It won't be a grand apology or a sudden confession of everything she's feeling. It will be casual, light, maybe even confusing. A message that seems harmless on the surface. Hey, how have you been? Or, I saw something that reminded me of you. But the truth behind those words is never light. Because by the time she sends it, she's already been thinking about you. Replaying moments, wondering where you are, what you're doing, and more importantly, who you've become. But she doesn't know how to bridge that gap, so she starts small, neutral, testing the waters, seeing if the door she once closed is still open. These messages don't come from love. They come from confusion, from the realization that the rebound didn't lead where she thought it would, that the connection she hoped to recreate can't be fabricated through novelty, that the version of herself she was in that new relationship isn't someone she feels proud of. And now she's not just curious about you, she's curious about who she was when she was with you. Not at the end, when things were unraveling, but in the beginning. When her laughter came easier, when she felt emotionally understood, when she felt seen in a way that didn't require effort. That version of herself, the one that felt open, connected, real, feels far away now. And reaching out to you isn't just about checking in, it's about reaching for the last place she remembers feeling whole. But here's what matters. How you respond will define the next chapter. She may come in quietly, but what she's really asking is louder than the words she uses. She's asking, is the version of me that existed with you still possible? And in that question is her regret, not necessarily for leaving, but for what she became after she left, for realizing too late that peace and connection can't be replaced with distraction. She's not reaching out because she suddenly loves you again. She's reaching out because the silence made her see something she didn't want to face. You didn't chase her. You didn't beg. You just let time and distance do the work. Now she's the one looking back, not at the chaos, but at the calm. Not at the arguments, but at the stability. And in a world that feels increasingly uncertain, she's starting to remember the rare feeling of being emotionally safe. And that feeling still lives in her memory of you. Stage number 7. She realizes she chose wrong. It doesn't come in a breakdown. It doesn't arrive during a dramatic argument or a tearful revelation. It sneaks in, quietly, slowly, until it becomes too undeniable to ignore. One morning, she wakes up next to someone she once felt excited about and feels absolutely nothing. No spark, no hope, just a dull ache, a weight she can't quite place. She moves through the day, performs the motions, smiles when expected. But inside, something is missing, and it's not just you, it's her. The silence between them at dinner says more than any fight ever could. The way her laughter feels forced, the way her thoughts drift elsewhere. Somewhere along the way, the fantasy she built began to collapse. Not because he did something wrong, but because she finally realizes she was never running toward something better. She was running away from the discomfort she refused to face. She thought someone new would make her feel alive again. She thought letting go of you would erase the weight she was carrying. But what she carried wasn't you. It was her own unresolved emptiness. And now, without anyone to blame, without the chaos to distract her, she's left with the truth. She replays it all, the way she left, the reasons she gave herself, the things she convinced herself to believe. And for the first time, she doesn't feel empowered by those choices. She feels disconnected from them. Because healing doesn't come from replacing people. It comes from facing the pain. And now, in the stillness of a life she thought would be easier, she finally admits what pride wouldn't let her see before. She didn't leave you to be happy. She left to avoid feeling broken, and in doing so, she broke herself even more. Summary. And if you followed her through every stage, through the silence, the comparison, the cracks, the confusion, there's one final truth you need to hear. Not every rebound ends quickly. Some drag on for months, even years, held together by routine, pride, or the fear of starting over again. And if you're still waiting, still watching from a distance, still measuring your worth by her return, here's what you need to understand. If she's been with him for longer than 6 months and the cracks haven't pulled it apart, it's no longer a rebound. It's her reality, and your life doesn't get to be paused while she figures hers out. There's a difference between being patient and being stuck. You've seen the cycle. How she left before she said goodbye, how she celebrated too soon, how the cracks formed, how confusion brought her back to the past. You've seen the illusion fade, the comparisons start, the regret creep in, the silence between them grow heavy. And maybe she'll come back. Maybe she'll say all the things you once needed to hear. Or maybe she won't. But that was never the point. Because this was never about getting her back. This was about getting yourself back. The man who let go with grace, the man who didn't chase validation, the man who chose stillness, chose growth, chose dignity in the face of loss. That man isn't waiting. He's evolving. And the woman who once left him might still look back. But by the time she does, he won't be standing in the same place. Because real healing doesn't come from her realizing she chose wrong. It comes from you realizing you don't need to be chosen to know your worth. Let her story unfold without you. Let your silence echo. Let your life move forward. Not in bitterness, not in pride, but in quiet strength. And when she finally sees what she lost, let it be too late. If this message stirred something in you, something honest, something unfinished, don't ignore it. Growth doesn't begin in the noise you chase. It begins in the silence you choose, in the stillness, in the pause. So like this video, subscribe to Stoic Station, and remember this: your healing, it's not about her return. It's about your rise, quiet, unshakable, yours.